podium. It's very official. Welcome to our very first Door Stories. That's kind of a play on War Stories, which I thought was really funny. But so we're going to be doing this Door Stories once a month. It'll be the third Monday night of every month, and it'll kind of be in between our Everyone Has a Story series also, which is the second and fourth Monday. So we'll always try to have some kind of storytelling event on Monday nights, and this is just a way, another way for us to get to know each other. And this was the idea of one of our new residents, Carol Verson. And she's going to kind of explain a little bit more, but I just wanted to say welcome, and I wanted to introduce her. I just want to remind also, especially the speakers, so these are our doors. Thanks, Dave. When you're using the microphone, keep your mask on, okay, because you're sharing a microphone, okay? Very good. Take it away, Carol.
Okay. Well, good to see you all. Are we on? You can hear me. I do have a loud voice. So I just came not long ago into this lovely place, and I was moseying through the hallways, you know.
Protect your mouth, okay?
Yeah.
With the mask.
Okay, now you hear me, right? Okay. So I was moseying down the hallways, and you know, because I couldn't go outside and I have to keep walking. And I'm walking and walking, and I'm seeing all these things on doors and doors, down low and up high, and a lot of rabbits because it was Easter. And I'm noticing these are works of art, actually. And then I'm curious. I'm wondering, why does that person put that particular thing in front of their door? And I suspect it wasn't just Easter, but I suspect that it said something about the person inside. So I just tapped a few of them. There's a lot. So we're going to have many of these, and we're going to have a lot of different people telling a lot of different stories. One of the things that I've always done is, and I'm continuing to do, is getting people's stories. I met a lady named Ruth today, and she talked for quite a while, and I was a good listener, and she told me about her first two husbands, and then she told me about her Mexican boyfriend, and I had a whole story for about an hour. And if we just listen, everybody here has a story. Some are a little, I don't know, you don't want to tell all the stories, but some are how you conquered this or did this. So everybody has a story. And these people have stories that they want to tell you. And then at the end, after each one presents, you're going to be able to ask them questions. And then you can have a real story back and forth. And hoping that some of you will volunteer if you have something in front of your doors. Yes?
Put the mic up to your mouth, please.
Okay, there we go. I should know how to do it, but my glasses fog up. Anyway, so everybody has a story. Everybody needs to tell their story or write their story. And I personally just wrote a book about myself. And I was urged by my kids to do it because it's a legacy for your children and your grandchildren. And they want to know what you did. When I read some of my stories, my grandchildren listen and they're hilarious. They didn't think I could do it. Anyway, let us start with our storytellers. And why don't we start with you? And I'm going to give you the mic.
Well, hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm Charlotte Dobrinsky. This is my husband, Ed. He will be presenting or holding my presentation. Is this better?
Yeah.
So, my husband, Ed, will be holding up my art. And you can do that now if you want to, Ed. Then you can have a seat. I don't know if you want to hold it the whole time or not. Here, let me have it.
This is what she has on her door. Here, let me hold it. I just want to get this ice. It goes this way.
So, I'm a quilter. And I belonged to a very active quilt guild in Pittsburgh. We have, I think, about 200 members. And we like to challenge each other. So one year, one of my friends said that she was going to issue a challenge called Pin Feathers, you say? Well, I didn't understand that at all. She had a whole story behind pin feathers, you say? But I don't remember it now. And it didn't speak to me, I guess, and it was hard for me to come up with something that didn't literally show feathers. And you want to hold it up?
May I hold it for you?
Sure.
If that's okay?
Yeah, that's fine. So I thought about it and thought about it, and it was getting near the time for deadlines. And the only thing I could think was this phrase, let the fabric do the work. And then I remembered I had this cat face. And at the same time, I had just bought this piece of red. And it has little gold squares and pink that looked like windows. To me, it actually looked like if you've ever had a bird and they had those tiny little bird seed tins. They used to hook on the cage, and that's what these looked like to me. And then I happened to remember that I had the birds. So letting the fabric do the work, I thought, what do cats have on their mind? Birds. So I made a bird cage. And these little roses are nothing more than what you can buy in Joann Fabrics. And I put them together like into a carrying. And then to keep with the pin feathers theme, the only thing I could think of was feathers on top of quills. And so this, nobody could understand what that was. Well, it's supposed to be the cup where the pens were held, and they all spilled out, and the cat was trying to get to birds. The title of my quilt is, No Birds Were Harmed in the Making of This Quilt.
Tell us how that is you. What about that is you? Besides you made it, but is there anything in it that you relate to?
Yes. I am a cat lover. We have at times had 1, then 2, then 3 cats, and now we have 1. Tatiana, God bless her heart, is 19 years old.
Wow.
And she made the trip, but didn't make the transition very well. It was 2.5 weeks before she ate anything, and we had to get her to the vet to do that. But birds, I've always had a penchant for birds. Never had a bird except when I lived at home. We had Petey, who liked to take those little tins, and we'd let him out of his cage every once in a while, and we'd throw a tin down, and he'd come over and turn it the other way. And we'd turn it back, and he'd turn it the other way. So we had a game that we played. Plus, I've always loved parrots, and that's what I think this is. And then I beaded it to make it look shiny like the bars, and I do love glitz and beads and gold on fabric, so yeah, I think that's me, that whole quilt.
Are you in the cage?
I am not in the cage, no.
Show it back. Show it back. Here. The back is sensational.
So also, just to tell you, our idea for format is that everyone will do about 5 minutes of their story, and then at the end, after everyone does their about 5 minutes, then you guys can ask questions of everyone. Okay? Yes.
Okay, our next person, well, you'll tell who you are, and if you notice, he has Rodin's The Thinker, and I thought, oh, this guy must be really interesting. So, he must be a thinker. Are you a thinker? Okay, well, tell us about.
Yeah, my name is John Leggett, and I live on the 3rd floor. John Leggett, I live on the 3rd floor, and for my wife and I, this, well, to me, let's just speak of mine.
Hold the mic up here.
Okay. Art, which I didn't appreciate as a child, has become something that we search out almost wherever we go anymore. When I was graduated from college, and I worked for a year and decided I didn't want to work in the steel mills and didn't want to do 9 to 5. So I got a passport and got a ticket on the ship going over to Europe, and I took off for 3 months and went to Europe and hitchhiked through about 12 different countries over that 3-month period. And then just back up a little bit, my last year in college, I had to have some fine arts credit on the transcript. So I took an art appreciation course, and I never thought it would come in handy. But my trip to Europe, whenever I went to any major city, London, Paris, Copenhagen, the first thing I did was go to the major museums in each of those cities. The British Museum, the National Portrait Gallery in London, the Rijksmuseum in Copenhagen, obviously the Louvre in Paris. This was back in 1969, and when I was at the Louvre, you could shoot a cannon in the Louvre and you wouldn't hit anybody. And we were back there 2 years ago, and you could barely, we had to make times and get tickets just to get into the Louvre. And it was like a 4-hour wait to see the Mona Lisa, which we didn't go to see again. But it was interesting because I had a little bit of introduction to fine arts when I think it was the 63 World's Fair in New York, and they brought over the Pietà, Michelangelo's Pietà, a marble statue of Mary holding Jesus after he'd been taken off the crucifix. And that was, I guess, probably one of my first introductions to fine art. And I was absolutely flabbergasted. Have you ever seen really good marble statues? The way they chip it, it's all done by hand with hammer and chisel, and then sand it down in some manner. And they're just beautiful. I remember being in the Louvre and seeing the David statue. I saw the Mona Lisa back in 1969. It was just a fabulous trip. And I learned a lot. When I was in the Rijksmuseum in Copenhagen, I think it's Copenhagen. Anyway, basically, mostly Rembrandt paintings. And they had one that was really interesting. I don't know whether anyone's ever seen it before. It's called The Night Watch. And there's probably 30 or 40 individuals in it. Well, it was commissioned by somebody, and after he finished it, the picture itself was so big, it didn't fit in the space that the purchaser wanted, and he cut down the picture in order to be able to frame it. So it was part of the picture that from day one was missing, which I thought was really interesting. Doing that whole thing, it's given me a real appreciation for art. My wife and I belong to the Art Museum of Chicago, almost ever since we got here, which is another story. Just in itself, when we first moved here, everything out the back, they hadn't had the new addition put on. It was nothing but railroad tracks behind the Art Institute. There's probably 40 or 50 of them between the Art Institute and Lake Michigan. So that's the story. I mean, it just represents, to me, some of the finer things in life. We've gone all over the world, well, Europe in particular, and it's interesting how you can find beauty in so many different places. Thanks.
We talked a lot about art, but why this particular guy? I mean, he's kind of famous, and Rodin is kind of famous, but why this guy? Everybody kind of knows the thinker, right? We all have kind of seen it, if not in person, in photos. So why this particular guy?
Well, for one thing, I mean, it's always been fascinating. I don't know if you remember the Carrington Messenger for this month. They handed it out. It's got a story in there about Rodin in a hotel where he lived and worked. And he convinced the French government to buy the hotel with the proviso that it would become a Rodin museum once he died. And I've never been there. So our next time in Paris, we're going to go and see all of the original sculpture. But the other thing about it is, you'll notice the name is Nude. My intended to mention this, I wasn't going to. I went to Greece also. I was in Greece and ran into a group of people who were talking about going to the island of Mykonos. And I asked them why they were going. I never heard of it before, and they said, well, there's a nudist beach there. It's the third beach on the island. So I said, that sounds like fun. So I went to Mykonos and spent 10 days there. First day I burned my rear end, sunburned my rear end, couldn't sit down for 2 days. But, so that's why.
We have Miss Trudy, who I'm sure you've all seen her. It's really more than just a decoration. It embraces the entire hallway. And she has a lot to say with what she put out there. So Miss Trudy, go.
I haven't been called that since I used to teach in Head Start. Hi. So, this is a combination of some of the things that are on my space. I call it my space. I suppose it's my art space, but this is a collection of all kinds of things. All of you have probably seen my monkeys. That's hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, and at the bottom is a small, curious George, and he was given to me by everybody's angel around here, who said, oh, you got those other monkeys, take this little one. And kind of the reason that I have them is because I think that's a good thing to live by. You don't have to see any evil, you don't have to hear any evil, and you certainly don't have to talk about it. So that's, I got those from a former resident that used to live here and had it in their house, and I didn't even know that it existed. And all of a sudden I was standing outside my doorway, and Kathy Rojas came by pushing a cart. And on that cart were those monkeys. And I said, wait, stop. Where are those going? And she said, oh, I don't know. This resident isn't with us anymore, and I don't know what I'm going to do with these. And I said, I know what you're going to do with these. Give them to me. I have the perfect spot for them, and I love them. And she said, you want them? You have them. So that's how I came to own those monkeys. This up at the top has a plaque that says choose happy. I'm a word person, and I always read words, and I love whenever good words are put together. And I thought, oh, choose happy, that's kind of a good thing to think about every day. So I think it belongs on my door. So people walk by, they look at that. What the heck is that door? Got that choose happy on it. Well, maybe I should try and be a little happier. You can always hope for it. The little wreath is something that we do in art class all the time. And underneath that underneath that wreath is a picture of the current resident council. And I've been a member of the resident council now for a long time. And we decided it would be a good idea if we started to take pictures of the resident council. And we had that one taken. And Haima thought it would be a good idea if we got it framed and we gave it to Tom and he could decide where he wanted to put it so he'd have a record. He did take it and he did frame it and it's now in his office, but that's the copy. The other pictures are things that I seasonally change quite often, certainly from summer and winter. My dogs, who are my children, and dogs are nice. I didn't have to send them to college, but they're very expensive, regardless. The next picture is the current administrative staff of all of the Carrington. The next is one of the first projects that we did up in Arts and Crafts where we made fidget mats. I had a partner who had Alzheimer's and I remembered having one of these given to them and she really liked it and she would sit with it on her lap. So I said, we could make those. So we made them and we gave them to our assisted living and memory care. And someone at the Kellerman Center over in Evanston saw one of these and said, gee, could you make those? And we made a dozen for them. So that was a very fulfilling project. The next picture is my lake up in Wisconsin when I retired and moved to Wisconsin at sunset, which is one of the best times of the night. The top one is the very first play that we ever did here. It was for Women's Week, and it was called Women Speak. And I recruited all of these people who I had barely known. And I said, you want to be in a play? You want to be in a play, don't you? And they all said yes. And it was very well received. The next one is from our Monarch project, which we had last year, and I hope that some of you were able to see some of those. This was brought to us by Julian, a real idea person who always thinks of everything. We raised 21 monarchs from the time they were just little things on milkweed until they turned into those beautiful monarchs. And then we would take them outside and we would release them. I haven't gotten a postcard from Mexico yet to tell me that any of them made it, but I like to believe that they're there. The next picture is, and I think it's Julian's hands holding one of those monarchs before we let them free. And the final picture is the biggest play that I've ever initiated and started and directed. We did several radio plays, which were just kind of like table reads. And then I decided, let's try something bigger. So we did Our Town. And that was very difficult, grueling, but we did it and it was very well received. And that's all of the people that were in the play. So, this is just again, next to my name, some swallowtails. These are also interesting. We've released, I think, 4 of these now. But these overwintered upstairs in the craft room. And they just hung around. It looked like little peanuts or something hanging there. And then all of a sudden we'd walk in one morning and Julian would walk in and all of a sudden I'd get a telephone call. We've got a baby! And I'd have to run upstairs and see what we got. And this is an example of the differences. The one at the top is a male. And the one at the bottom is a female. This is the last female that we've just had. And they're really beautiful. And then, well, that's my apartment number and my name. But this is another word that I found, and when I found this, I had to put it on my door because it says, and it's by Muhammad Ali. I found my place when I stopped looking for it. And I thought, I gotta put this. Because that's how I felt about the Carrington, and I still feel that way. I was living up north, all alone on a lake, one of the most beautiful places you could ever want to be, but it was too isolated, and I was far away from my family. My partner had passed away. I tried to make a go of it for about 3 years, and then I said, there's gotta be something better. So I'm gonna find a place where I can get a second life. So I turned it into a research project, and I walked around. I went to all these different places with my brother and sister-in-law, and the minute I walked in here, I said, I think this is the place. And that was it. But this is the best thing that I've ever done, right here. This is a jar which we made in arts and crafts, which Julian called a gratitude jar. And you were supposed to fill it up every day with something you were grateful for. And I thought to myself, I'm grateful for everything. I don't need a gratitude jar. What I need is to give a gift to other people. So I turned mine into an intention jar. And I started to fill it up with quotes or sayings every day. And I put the sign on there that says, please take a quote as an intention for the day, and then find a smile. And so I just stuck it out there to see what would happen. And pretty soon, at the end of the week, I walked there and it was empty. And I thought, oh, well, I guess somebody's picking these things up. And then people started saying to me, you know, I stopped over there and I took one of those things, and that was really, I liked it. And it kept happening, so I thought, I gotta keep filling this jar. So I fill it once a week now. And because I live on the first floor and I live at that end of the hall, not everybody passes by. But it still gets, and I've had residents, families that have come by and stopped me and said, is this your door? And then they'll say, well, you know, I took one of those. And just the other day, this is a lovely thing about it. Arthur came up to me when I was sitting in here doing something, and he bent down and he said, you know what? I took one of those things out of your jar. He said, and I opened it up and I read it, and I said, oh my God, this is what my mother's always telling me. I'm going to take this. And he said, I want to thank you. I mean, what's better than that? So if you're ever walking by, take an intention.
Okay, well, she is Miss Carrington. The whole history is there right at her door. And that was great, thanks. Now, y'all, she goes marching down the hall, and I catch her every time, and I say y'all, because that's her sign, welcome, y'all. And she has quite a story to tell. So, tell them who you are.
I'm Cosetta Joseph. I live on the second floor. I'm an original. I'm one of the first residents of the Carringtons. I'm a pioneer. And from my accent that all of you know and that I'm proud of, it's South. The heart, I came from Mississippi. And that sign speaks for itself, y'all. And I found that in one of my favorite towns, New Orleans, and I had to have it because it represents me well. And I do believe in another life, but we'll have that story on another day that I lived in New Orleans. We talk about my past lives. I came here, if you want to know how did I get to Chicago. In 1955, I arrived on the Illinois Central train and got off at 12th Street because I had been accepted at Michael Reese Hospital to do an internship. Just graduated from a historical Southern school, Tuskegee Institute. You know Booker T. Washington? Okay. And I did an internship there. They hired me as a dietitian once I completed that. Then President Kennedy decided to run for president. First Catholic, and me being Catholic, decided that I want to work his campaign. And therefore I joined the group. Old Man Daly, I guess seeing a tall black woman back in the 50s, in the early 60s, you know, my height, I have, you know, I was taller then. Noticed me. Jane Byrne was not working for the city in part of government at that time. She was part of the campaign. And he said, come on over to the city and we're gonna hire you. And that's what happened. I left Michael Reese and went to work for the city of Chicago. It's where I stayed for 36 years as a district manager. Changed my major, went to Roosevelt, got a master's in institutional management. My college degree was in institutional management and public administration. I received a master's from Roosevelt. And all of that happened in the 60s. Met my husband, born and raised in Chicago, not knowing anything about the South, and had 2 children. And they're both here. One is in medical research with the University of Illinois, and one is the Cook County police officer, married to a Chicago police officer. And I have a grandson that's an engineer with Amtrak that lives here in Morton Grove. How did I get here? After I sold my house and all that, I decided that I wanted to go back to Mississippi to be with my sisters. My daughter said, no, you gotta be close to us. And she found this place. Here I came here, and I've been here ever since, and I'm kind of happy here. I'm really happy here. And I'm glad that you all came. And I want you to stay here, and y'all are welcome on the second floor. All right.
Okay, well, we're missing someone, but let's take some questions from you, the audience, because you see, everybody has a great story to tell. I'm sure if I went around with the mic, that every one of you could tell some wonderful stories. So let me go around, and anybody have questions? Yes.
Cosetta, are you a twin?
Yes, I'm an identical twin. Her name is Loretta.
Yes.
Yes.
I knew that, I just wanted everybody else to know.
Loretta is in Mississippi.
You mean there's another one like you?
Just like me.
All right, another question. Anybody have a question? You want to know more about these people, don't you? Yes.
Here's one back here. Hold on, Willie.
You know I've got to be the devil's advocate. Because she told me when I first met her, she told me she's been here long, so I called her the Queen of Carrington. But I have a question for you, Queen.
Yes.
You said y'all. What is the plural to y'all?
You all.
Thank you.
I like y'all better.
I like y'all better.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question or a comment even on any of our participants? I think all these stories are interesting. You all have stories to tell. And does anybody want to tell their story while we're here? No? Okay.
me tell you, I have passed that your door so many times and wondered about that. And you explained it beautifully, and it's lovely, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Well, at any rate, I passed your door many times and just loved that tapestry. Or is it quilting? It's quilting, right? It is just lovely. But I was very curious, and thank you for explaining.
I think there's another one here. Keep your mask on, okay?
This gracious lady up in the front, who's introducing everybody, has the name of Carol. And she's only been here hardly more than a month. And I can't believe what she has gotten into. And I can hardly wait to see what other creative ideas she's going to come up with in the next 11 months. So thank you, Carol. I really appreciate
Well,
that.
thank you very much. Yes.
Here, hold on.
I had the pleasure of getting to know Charlotte, and I've been in her apartment, and I've seen the beautiful quilts that she has. It's magnificent, and it's just a lovely story to know about her. And I'm so happy to see her tonight. And she's been here with me about a year now. And what she's gone through, nobody should have to go through. So it just delights me so much to see you tonight. And I smile every time I go by your door and I see that quilt. So, thank you so much.
So I'm urging all of you to take walks up and down the hallways and really look. You don't have to knock on the door, but you could look at what you see and let your imagination kind of go wherever it wants to go. And maybe you want to knock on the door and say hello and get to know that person. Because that's what this is all about. It's connecting to each other, connecting your stories. We all have stories to tell, and we all have funny stuff. I met Ruth over here, sitting out there in the sun, and she told me she was 92, and I couldn't believe it. And then she told me all kinds of stuff, which I won't tell right now. Okay, but that was pretty interesting. And you know what? I couldn't tear myself away. I wanted to hear her story. I really wanted to hear her story. And it was unique. It was her story. So I'm urging all of you to take a look. And not only that, if you don't have something on your doors, put something on your doors that reflects who you are.
One more question back there, Carol.
I came to Carolina. The story short, I came to Carolina after 4 other units with places we looked at. And when I walked in, I met Greg, and before I left that day, I gave him a deposit. When I got home, Rosalie asked me, where have you been? I said, I went to the Carrington. How is it? I told her, I said, I put a deposit down. You did what? But we looked at some others, and so I left the thing. She was thinking about the one up the street here on Tui. And I told her, I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to argue with you about it. You pick, whatever you pick, I'll be contented. So after all night, she said, we're going to Carrington. So I told her when I got home, I told her, I said, you know what? She said, what? I said, it reminds me of, hello, are you looking for me? Yes.
Okay, so remember, you all have stories to tell. You all have an ability to put your art out there. And I'm going to be walking up and down the corridors again. And I'm going to be taking the pictures. And some of you may be coming up here and presenting. I hear a lot of stories here about how I got to the Carrington, which is really interesting. I think we all took different paths, right? And here we all are together. So let's get to know each other a little more. And what did you find out today? That these people that you've probably seen in other places, now you know them just a little bit better, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, you're right. Anyway, anybody else have a question of our presenter?
Hold on, ma'am.
would just like to make a comment about Carol. And this is from a friend of hers. His name is Patrick. So one evening, Trudy and I were having dinner with Patrick, and he said, you know, I think a very old friend of mine is going to be moving in. Oh, we said, that's lovely. He said, well, she's a little, I said, flamboyant? Ah, good description. She's a shaker and a mover. And we said, well, that's good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming here.
Well, I have a lot of ideas, and I used to run senior programs. So now I am a senior, and I'm still trying to run senior programs. But I have a lot of ideas, and I hope I can share with you in the future. So thanks for coming.
Carol, why don't you just really quickly tell about the Writing Your Memoirs class that you already are leading?
So Trudy is in the class, and I am having people come and tell their life stories. Well, not all the story. I've had different subjects that they write about or they tell about. And it will continue because there's tons and tons of questions that I have to ask each one of the people in the class. So y'all come, if you want to write your story or tell your story or share your story, it's just a sharing and connecting. We need to connect. We need to connect and hear each other and see each other. So y'all come on Wednesday at 1:30. We'll be there.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks, everyone who shared your door story.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, we missed a couple of people, but we'll get them eventually.
And then maybe next time it'll be you. Thanks, everyone. Let me just turn this off.